Hi there, Glow here. Today we're going to be doing a full sculpt of Cthulhu. You'll see him from start to finish. And it's actually going to be, one of my new things is I've actually got a Popsocket plate, sized cutter, so it'll be nice and even and flush, unlike that guy. And I have my super cool palette knife set. I love it. Thank you, Brenda. Okay, and I get his first color by mixing the bright green, the blue green, and black. And that'll be the main color. And for the next color, the bluey one. And I made the second bluey color by mixing the main color, some blue-green, and black. And it doesn't look like I mixed anything into that, but I did try to darken it up with some black. But I had to condition the clay anyway, so it's no big deal. I'm happy with it. I've got translucent for the bubbles, and red for his beady little eyeballs. Whoa. Get your zoom together, girl. Alright, here we go. I'm going to be texturing the piece of rock that he's going to be built up on, the base plate for the Popsocket cover. Now, the toothbrush didn't do much. I have a soft bristled brush, but my friend Ashley sent me this awesome tool set, these two guys. And the handle makes a really cool texture, kind of like snakeskin, which isn't perfect for a rock, so we're going to go in with this Reiki tool and poke around. And that's really cool. It kind of reminds me of lava rock, how it's really porous. And the toothbrush does soften the effects without getting rid of them, so I do like that. That will stay in my toolkit. And rocks are very natural and they have lots of different textures and features. So you can go in with a bunch of different tools and see what you like. I'll be going back and antiquing this when I get the right paint. So these will be filled in with a darker color and they'll stand out more. And I'm happy with that. It's the details, my friend, the details. You'll see a lot of it doesn't stand out. But the details do matter. So I like spending the extra time. And here I'm putting on the shape for the face, because I kind of want to stay on target before I start really building him out with tentacles and gills and all his face meat. Because it is easier to build up piece by piece than it is to start with a huge chunk and carve it down. It's easier for me anyway. And he's going to start out this weird little green alien looking shape. That feels nice and centered to me. And I use the bacon bonds so those little crags don't cause air bubbles that make Cthulhu separate from his plate. Got my eyeballs. These are actually going to be the eyebrows. There. And I know they look weird and derpy or whatever, but we're going to get better. I'm going in with my color shaper, because he kind of looks like a heavy eyebrowed grandpa alien right now. And we want something more angry, more menacing. More I've been alive for centuries and I'm not dealing with your bullcrap. Can't blame ya. And I'm just going back and forth and really playing with the shape. I really want to at least nail the shape, because I can always build up. But like I said, we're going to be building around this wrinkles and tentacles and cheekbones and gills. And I really want to get this right so the foundation shape is there. And we got the eyeballs going in. Those eyeballs are too big. I can roll bowls with my both hands at the same time. And you want to make them a little bigger than you want them because blending them in. And I don't want them to be perfect circles. I want them to look like his brows are coming down over his eyes. Not like I placed them second. Although a googly-eyed Cthulhu would be pretty funny. I can't. That would be funny. Okay. And we got our eyebrows. Now we need our bottom lids. Bottom eye area. Just pinching triangles. And blending them in and working with the shape. And just trying to get that shape the way I want it. And here we go, I'm going in with those forehead wrinkles. Because these are, since it's in such a closed space, it's just really easier to add them, build them up, rather than carving down into clay. Because Wrinkles, he's old and wise. I hope my forehead is this wrinkly someday. He'll be old and wise and wrinkly and happy. And tell all them whippersnappers to get off my lawn. And I'm just making sure that that crease goes down the middle, that little wrinkle. And blending that in nice and smooth so it looks like a cohesive piece. And here we go. I just keep referencing that because I want to stay on track with the general vibe and the size, because they don't have to be twins, but we want them to be recognizable. And I've got 4 bottom tentacles, 4 of those bluer ones in the middle, and then 3 main face tentacles. So that's what I'm going to start with, the 4 bottom ones in the same green as the main face. Gosh, I've got these color shapers. Got them also from my friend Brenda. Thank you, Brenda. And then somebody else sent me a set, so I have all the sizes I could need. Oh, and that's the last time I'm going to be able to size them up, so that's what I'm doing. So whoever else sent me tools but didn't put a name on it, thank you, love you. And here we get going with the tentacles, which is probably the coolest part of his face. I mean, how easy would it be to eat cheese balls if your face was full of tentacles? Just shove them right in there. Nom, 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 nom. There we go. And it's a good thing that, you know, cephalopods, they're not symmetrical. They're not gonna spend brain power making sure their tentacles are curled just the right way on each side of them, so you can play around and get a feel for it and see what you like. Curl this one, bend that one, twist this one. I actually wanted to make Cthulhu because I just played a game on Steam, and it's called What Remains of Edith Finch. It was a really cool game. You get to be the main character and walk through and this weird, crazy old house and discover things about her family and really weird happenings and a curse. And it's just really fun game if that's your style. And you get to, in one mini game, you get to be this single tentacle crawling around eating things. And that was cool. I'm like, yeah, that was really fun. I wanna make the monster. So inspiration comes from all kinds of places. And I've decided I like these tentacles, so I'm just making sure they're nice and stuck to the face. Because I want to keep them. And I don't want them to fall off or break off. So I'm making sure they're connected to the whole face. And he has a pretty low profile. That's on purpose. Because he is going on a Popsocket. I don't want him to be too bulky. So I'm gonna make sure the thickness of his face doesn't get too out of control. So I'm just going in with a clay carving tool and I'm getting rid of that mound in the middle because I have 2 more sets of tentacles to put on, and if I didn't rein that in a little, we would just get way too thick. And that's my ball tool to make sure things are ready, nice and indented and smooth to receive more tentacles. Making these guys always makes me want to like sing sea shanties and stuff. Or put on some Dropkick Murphys maybe. There's a better positioning. And again, just see where things fit in, where they look good. Because this is going to be hanging off your phone. So while you're using it, it's actually going to be viewed from all sides depending on who you're hanging out with or what you're using it for. So I want it to be interesting if you're looking at the tentacles from the bottom. I want it to be interesting if you're looking at the whole thing from the side. I don't want any part of it to be boring. Because you've got to sculpt from every angle. And just go back and forth. There we go. This one and one more tentacle and we'll be ready to do the main event. I gotta admit, I didn't get into H.P. Lovecraft until after I was out of high school. We didn't really read any Lovecraft in middle school or high school. I feel like I kind of missed out early on that, but caught up to speed after. Okay, I just sizing them up because I don't want the tentacles to hang too far off the pop socket. One, it'd probably be pretty annoying, and for another thing, it won't be as sturdy if they're hanging off real far. And I don't want these tentacles to break. One more blue-green tentacle. Do, 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 do. There we go. And this is a project where mistakes and little nicks aren't as noticeable because honestly I just fit them into the design because you know, monsters are really crunchy and imperfect and craggy and wrinkly, which makes it a lot of fun to work with, and it just makes it easier to incorporate those flaws. I myself am made of flaws, stitched together with good intentions. Okay, now it's easiest to do the middle on this one and work from that. Nice schnoz, buddy. And these are thicker, more prominent because just varying the size for one adds interest, and it's easier to tell which tentacles are more important. These are the dominant tentacles. There we go. You know, it was really amazing when I went through the footage and just started adding up how much time one of these little guys takes me. And at first I was really blown away, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I took that long making this one little thing. But you know what? I like the way they turn out. They're rewarding. I love them, and I have a blast doing them. So I ended up really glad that I took the time to spend making sure this guy looked as good as I could make him look. That makes me happy. And here we're just blending, blending, blending because we want the tentacles to make, we want to make it look like the tentacles are grew out of his face and that they weren't slapped on like they were. And here we go with his face. I'm just extending those wrinkles across a little bit more. Whatever feels good to me, whatever feels natural. Redefining those little forehead wrinkles, his little cheekies. Okay, so far so good. Giving him some more, roughing him up a little more. Giving him some freckles. Now, someone recommended that I give this guy those little suction cups on the tentacles. And I did try that, but with all the tentacles I have going on, it got really bulky really quick. And just did not work out for me. And we're going to be moving on to the gills. I think like for the eyeball monster, there were only a few tentacles, so it worked out with those really prominent suction cups. Like if I made this guy a jewelry set, I could do really detailed tentacle earrings. You would make a pretty cool pendant. Anyway, okay, so I'm making little clay snakes and flattening out one side to make the gills. I already did a little video on this. And I'm just blending those in. It doesn't, and I'm ruffling it. It doesn't matter too much how that seam looks right there, but I just want to make sure it's nice and bonded to his head, because we don't want no gills falling off, then he can't breathe. There we go. And then I'm going to go with another gill in the contrasting green, blue-green. If you can see it, I just play with things until they work. Until I'm happy. And then I decide I'm not happy anymore, and I go back and I play with them some more. Like you do. And I want to make sure this one's definitely thinner, and I put a little further in on the face because I want you to see all the gills if you're looking at this guy from the front, because that just makes it more interesting. You just can't get too roughly or else it'll look like a fancy dress. Well, I mean, Cthulhu's perfectly allowed to like fancy dresses, just not the look I'm going through here. But now I'm imagining a squid monster in like a really fancy dress. Cthulhu's quinceañera! And our final gill on the top, we're going back to his main green color. Pinch, pinch, pinch. And again, it's narrow and it's going, well, it's not narrower than the other one, but it's going further in on the face. So you can see all those ruffly gills. And this one, it does matter look how it looks. So we're gonna make sure it's nice and smooth. And then we got gills that look like they grew out of his face. And I don't want that part hollow. I mean, Gaunt Cthulhu is a thing, but I really like him really fleshed out and bulky and menacing with a lot of strong features in his face. So I'm building out that cheekbone and blending it in. And blending it into the gills. And there you go. It looks like it was always like that, doesn't it? Super fancy. And you can really see the difference, but like I said, we're not going for an exact replica. That's just not going to happen when you're sculpting by hand. And that's okay. I'm just making sure I didn't lose all the definition in that under eye. Oh, and here I'm using Gills, and I'm trying to extend that one wrinkle, seeing how I feel about that. It's definitely different. Not sure how I feel about it. So I'm just going to leave it and let it marinate in my brain space. And it's time for the second set of gills. I'll speed this up a little more since you already saw that process. These tools are so cool. Now, I would say my favorite monster, kind of from classic literature, I gotta Frankenstein. That would be Frankenstein. Actually, I read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein every year around Halloween. That's my Halloween tradition. And yeah, it's just one of my all-time favorite books. No offense to this little guy. And sorry I'm coming at this part of the video from like a different angle. I do have a bad leg, so I do these videos in about 3 or 4 chunks, because my leg can't handle sitting in one place too long. It gets really sore, the muscles cramp up, so my perspective issues will get better, but bear with me while I work on it. And I decided I didn't like that wrinkle that went across the face. It just kind of reminded me too much of scuba gear. And this guy doesn't need scuba gear, he's got gills. One thing about the color shaper I like is you can grab really thin pieces of clay, and you can actually, it's almost like using a paintbrush. It reminds me of oil painting, just grabbing up and smoothing on different colors. And I'm just building up so that the sides are more even. And those tentacles look like they're coming in really naturally, growing out of his face. I think I'm pretty, I mean, it's definitely different, but I'm pretty on par with the look I'm going for. And I decided to build out that eyebrow a little bit more. The other one was just a lot thicker, and I wanted to even that up a little. That's better. Okay. And we're going to move on to those bubbles for that little bit of sea foam. Do I need it? No. Am I going to do I've got my bacon sponge, because I really want these to stick really well. So I'm going to glue them with the Sculpey bacon bond. And I'm rolling up a bunch of tiny little bubbles to make that sea foam, or bubbles, because I love bubbles. I always have bubbles on me. There's always bubble soap in my purse. I think there's a thing of bubble soap in my car. I usually even carry 2, so I have one to give away and one to keep for myself. I love bubbles. They're just great. Back in college, when people went on smoke breaks, I'd go, and I never started smoking because I have asthma, and that was just not an option. One thing I'm grateful for my asthma for. And They'd go on smoke breaks, and I would take a bubble break. And I'm just gluing these on and then positioning them so they look nice and clustered together. The thing about the Bacon Bond, the good thing about the Bacon Bond is I don't have to blend them a lot and lose their shape very much, which I appreciate because I want my bubbles nice and bubbly. And again, this is just one of those random details. Would it have been okay without it? For sure. Is it a little better with it? I do think so. So many bubbles. Now for the original one, I used some clay I already had mixed up. I think it was translucent and either the opal or the glow in the dark. But I wanted to try just translucent to see how this turned out. And there we go. I really don't want this to be symmetrical because the bubbles don't land symmetrically. I'm just adding a few more right around this tentacle here. More bubbles is more better. I think I said the same thing about glitter. Ooh, what if I made a sparkly Cthulhu? Maybe not. And there we have it. I'm gonna go through and adjust everything a little bit. I want to make sure everything is like I want it before it's baked. And here we go, the original and the baked new guy. Thanks for watching. Hope you had fun. I did. Bye!